Now, most men don't sell out because they're weak. They sell out because they're scared. They're scared of losing their job or their friends. And they're scared of being labeled as difficult. They're scared of what might happen if they actually said what it is they truly believe. So many choose to stay quiet and just play along, numb themselves. And they justify this by telling themselves, well, it's just this once, or that wasn't my fight. But it's never really just once, is it? That once, well, that becomes a pattern, a habit, a slow motion collapse of everything that man once stood for. And that's not life just humbling you, gentlemen. That's fear making a coward out of you. And once you give up your voice, you didn't just lose the fight, you lost yourself. So, are you selling out? The true cost of saying nothing. Now, nobody wakes up and says, I think today's the day I become a sellout, right? It's never that dramatic. It's quieter, a slow leak under the sink that you ignore until the whole cabinet smells like rot. You laugh at a joke you know you hate. You nod in agreement to a decision that you know is wrong. And you tell yourself, well, it's just this once. But it's never just once. Because every time you choose to bite your tongue or swallow your truth, it gets that much easier to do it again and again until at some point you're just drifting, letting other people set your boundaries for you. And the part that I will never understand, why do we do this? Why do good people, smart people, just roll over and let their integrity get steamrolled? And I keep thinking about all the times that I've done it myself. Times where I would sit in a meeting and keep my mouth shut. And I told myself, well, it isn't really my fight. But deep down inside, I knew that was just my way of avoiding something that I didn't want to face. And it usually never does start with a grand betrayal. It's the little things, the offhand joke you know is wrong, but you laugh at it anyway. That shortcut you take because everyone else is doing it. Or maybe that moment you let something slide because it's just easier to stay quiet about it than to make a big fuss. And you justify it by telling yourself, no big deal. Nobody got hurt, but that's exactly how it gets you. Each time you do this, it becomes a little easier to justify or to rationalize your actions, to convince yourself you're still a good person and that you're still on the right side of things. And before you know it, those tiny slips, well, they've stacked up. And what once felt like harmless choices now look a lot like a pattern. You even stop noticing the line that you're crossing because it moves so gradually, inch by inch, decision by decision. And that's exactly how good people drift into bad habits. Not because they're villains, but because they got comfortable, too comfortable. And because the slide was so slow and gradual, and also nobody called them out on it. And the scariest part of this, the more you justify, the more you disengage from your own sense of right and wrong. You even start to believe your own excuses, and then suddenly you're not even sure where your boundaries are anymore. And that's the real danger, people. That slow, silent slide that turns small lapses into huge regrets. And it's usually always the same story. Someone somewhere profits from your silence. from your willingness to just blend in, and from your fear of being that guy who makes things awkward. The manipulators, the corner cutters, the folks who thrive in the shadows. You see, they love it when you keep your mouth shut. Because every time you swallow your truth or bite your tongue, you hand them a little bit more power, a little more wiggle room to work their manipulations and games. And you, well, you get to keep your peace. Sort of. But it's not real peace. It's more like quiet destruction, slow rot under the surface. And maybe people do this out of fear, fear of losing friends or fear of being the odd one out. Maybe it's fear of conflict or fear of being wrong. Or maybe after a while, it's just habit, muscle memory, choosing the path of least resistance. And I often think back to how easy it was for me to convince myself that it's not my problem or someone else will speak up. But deep down in here, I knew that was just my way of shying away from something that was uncomfortable. And the more I did it, the easier it got. Until I looked up one day and I couldn't even remember the last time I actually stood for something that mattered. So let's get brutally honest with ourselves here, people. What is it that you actually believe? What is it that you actually stand for? Not what's easy and not what everyone else is saying or doing, but what you truly believe in. And write it down and stare at it. Force yourself to stare at it and deal with it. And let it make you uncomfortable if it has to. That's something we need to learn again, to accept discomfort. Because after all, integrity does cost. And of course, you're going to lose friends. And you'll lose people who claim to be there for you. And you'll have a shit ton of awkward moments, I can promise you that. But you'll sleep a lot better. And you'll know you didn't just drift through your life on autopilot. So speak up. Even if your voice shakes or it's messy or it becomes scary. And sure, you'll second guess yourself. But nothing changes until somebody makes noise about it. So let me ask you this. Where are you folding at or compromising? And what are you biting your tongue about just to keep things smooth? And then only to wake up later wishing that you'd done some things differently. Don't let comfort steal your voice, people. And don't let the world turn you into another silent bystander. We have enough of those. And the rot only stops when you say it does. And that truly is the only way back from moral compromise. You see, moral surrender isn't a single moment. It's more like a slow leak, a quiet drip, drip, drip of compromises. But you can stop that dripping. You can patch it. You and you alone can turn the tide. And it won't be easy. And it'll oftentimes be ugly, but sometimes people, unfortunately, that's the only way to stay true. So let me ask you this. What's it gonna be? You're gonna keep drifting further and further away, or you're gonna start fighting for your soul? And if this hits you, speak up, say something. Drop your thoughts down in the comments and let's see what you learn and see what you got to say. And don't let this be another moment where you just hear it and scroll by and disregard it. Your voice matters, so use it. Unc's words of wisdom.